So we all knew it was bound to happen, but we can officially say that Maria has fully been seduced by Katarina, and Katarina, being as dense as she is completely unaware of the major harem she has developed. I mean, what she did, once again, she stole another key role from another male character from the game, and she's like coming in for the save. She came in and saved Maria, and Maria's like, you didn't just save me once, you saved me a second time, and on top of it, you're like, oh, you're a friend of the student council, we don't just have you there just to have you there, you're a great person and all that, and we enjoy your cooking, we're not just pitying you and all that, and just, how could you not fall for someone and be seduced by someone that is literally just straight up showing some form of care and love for you that you haven't seen in your entire life? And I mean, just once again, Katarina is just showcasing that no matter what she does, she's just having people join her harem. She's probably going to get a harem route. And, you know, honestly, the only way I could see at this point in time that Katarina is going to have a doom flag, like she's going to end up dying, is because all of the individuals that have joined her harem are going to be just so upset that she doesn't choose one or the other and going to kill her or something. I feel like that is the only way now at this point she could have a doom flag, which could happen. But regardless, though, I do think that we got a good amount of detail on Maria to see what type of person she is, if she's a bad person, a good person, etc. I think this is a good episode to kind of clear the air for many that were speculating who would be the main villain of this story. Because, as I've already talked about, my next life as a villainess, you know, with what the series is, Hamifuda, well, I was constantly wondering who was going to be the main obstacle, who was going to be the person that causes conflict within this story, because, I mean, obviously, Katarina, she's kind of completely negated her doom. I mean, she has befriended every individual that would potentially not like her. They're now her friends. She has stolen certain routes from others. I mean, she's seduced every character, and even characters that were not even an option in the game. So, I mean, when you look at it, she's avoided her death. There's just, at this point, no way that she would die in the same circumstance as the game was, because she's not an evil character by any means. She's pretty much like a really good individual. And as I said, Maria could potentially have been a bad person because, you know, we don't really know what her default personality was, and this episode kind of dives into that. It kind of lets us know that she is not going to cause any problems for Katarina, by no means. The only way that Maria could actually cause problems for our MC Katarina is if she gets jealous and just wants to start harming the other cast of characters because she wants Katarina to herself. That's the only thing I can see that could potentially happen, is that the other characters get a little bit yandere and they just want to, you know, isolate Katarina from the others. Which, speaking of isolation, that gets into another thing. As I've already talked about, what Katarina has already done, she's pretty much isolated, you know, Maria. She's pretty much like stolen everything that she's supposed to do within the game, and she's in turn seducing her, where the only person that she really has in her life is Katarina. So, as I've already said in my description, in my title, and in the comments, you know, she's a bigger villain than the original Katarina, because she has done so much harm technically. Well, she's done good, but she has technically damaged her in such a way that the villain never thought was probably possible, because she's isolated right now. She has no one. She is fully dependent on Katarina for any form of connection. And if it wasn't for Katarina, our main character, she would not have nothing right now. She would legitimately be in a worse situation than the game, because now the guy characters and the girl characters are not actively seeking a relationship with her. So that just says enough. But it goes one step further, though. We find out that Maria, because of the flashbacks and stuff we got within this episode, she is a good person that has had a really difficult life. She has not had any connection with anyone ever since her magic kind of presented itself to the world, which makes a lot of sense, because from everything that's been established within this series, people that have magic are those that are very gifted. They're nobles. They're people that are high up in society. So if you have this very rare magic, like light magic, obviously people are going to start speculating that you must be related to a noble, or, you know, your mother had an affair, or whatever the case may be. So it makes sense why a lot of drama and issues happen with Maria and her family, because of just her power presenting itself, which we don't really get the full scope of what happened in the past. All we know is that Maria had a very difficult time. She couldn't connect with anyone, everybody avoided her like the plague, and she was constantly gossiped about, etc. So she never got to have a connection with anyone. It wasn't like awful, like she wasn't being like straight up bullied from what we saw what's going on now in the school, but she was just being isolated. She had nothing, so she lived a very quiet life, and you have it to where the mother didn't really help her out. And she even talks about that within this episode, that she feels responsible and a failure as a mother because she wasn't there to really emotionally support Maria in her difficult times. And the reason for that, it's not really stated, but because of just the way things are presented, we can kind of put A and B together and understand what was going on, and to kind of explain that one. So we noticed, if you pay attention to the flashback, we know that there is a husband around. We know that Maria's father is around in the flashback. They were making food together, sweets, etc. So we know that the husband was around, and the appearance-wise of the husband and the father figure, he didn't seem like a noble by any means. But it could be like a Katarina situation, just someone that, wants to live in the countryside even though they're a noble. Who really knows? But the point is, we don't really know what happens to him, so to say, because he just ends up disappearing. Like, we have it to where we go from that brief scene of her unlocking her magic and having a happy time to a fast forward section to where she's in school, people are isolating her, and, she can't even enjoy her main hobby of making sweets because nobody even wants to try them out or have anything to do with her, and the mother's not really emotionally supporting her, so she's very isolated, feels very alone, and the father doesn't seem to be there. And my only speculation to that is the father probably got up and left because he heard the rumors and he just didn't want to stick around. And here's the thing. Like I said, it's not said at all, and I do hope that it is eventually dived into, because I think it's a pretty big detail that needs to be dived into, what happened to the father, because you could take it in two different ways. You could take it as the father, he left because obviously the rumors were so bad that he started to doubt if his wife truly was his wife. Like, did his wife actually have an affair and do something behind the scenes? And so he's probably wondering, like, do you even love me? Is my daughter really like an illegitimate child to a noble? And so I could see why someone be upset with that, because the proof is there. When you go by the normal stuff of the world, etc., it makes sense that for anyone to have magic that rare, they would need to be a child of a noble. And if he's not a noble and he sees something like this, he's like, is the child even mine? Like, and obviously the wife is probably going to say, yes, it's yours, honey, yes, it's yours. But at the same time, that seed of doubt has been planted. So it makes you assume that the husband left because of that, but if it wasn't that, then the husband died, which that needs to be explained as well. Like, I think that's a big detail that needs to be dived into. Did he die from some form of sickness, or did he just up and leave because he didn't want to care for that family anymore, because he didn't even know if, Maria was his actual daughter or not? So that is a big question I have, but regardless, the flashback does give context that Maria isn't a bad person, so I think this episode did a good job with that. So the question is, who is the person that's going to cause conflict? Because, like I said, there needs to be conflict within this series. Who's going to cause problems, and who's going to make it to where Katarina feels like she's going to die? There has to be something like that, because so far, it has been happy-go-lucky and joyful, which I think that's what the series is trying to say and present. It is a joyful, happy series, but there still needs to be a little bit of conflict to kind of go along with even the title, because the title of the series is literally called My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. So there needs to be something that goes along with that title. You can't just, completely negate the title just with a prologue. I mean, she's already kind of saved her life as is with the normal routes, but there has to be something that pops up. There has to be like a butterfly effect after changing the timeline, etc. Let's talk about the student council for a second. So there was a character that was in the student council that never really got a lot of detail in the game. And Katarina herself even talks about it. It's like the student council president, he was just working like a savage. He was just going in, finishing paperwork after paperwork like it was nothing. And in the game, you didn't really get to see much of him. You just know he was there. He was as a support character, a very minor character that appeared every so often. And it's clear as day that the character most likely is going to have a lot more of a role to play as the story progresses. Because for something like that to be mentioned within this episode, I feel like the student council president will be a major character. I mean, he's even in the opening song, so there has to be something going on with him, which, that is another thing. So, going back into the conflict, I feel like at this point in time, the only way there's going to be conflict within this series is one of the characters, one of the lovers, are going to try to isolate Katarina or make her look bad in front of everyone else. And I've been speculating and thinking about who could be, who could potentially do that. Is it going to be Maria? Is it going to be her stepbrother? Who is it going to be? Like, who is going to mess with Katarina? And the more and more I think about it, the more and more it seems like it might be her fiancé. I really am starting to think that her fiancé might be the one to start things, because it would be a spin on the story when you think about it, because Katarina was supposed to be the main villain, and obviously the dude that she was engaged with was supposed to be the knight in shining armor. But since Katarina's kind of stolen all his roles, someone obviously needs to take her roles, and it would make sense that he would probably have a lot of jealousy and be upset, because Katarina's been spending a lot of time with other guys, girls, etc., and he might feel like that he might not have a chance, so he might want to try to actively go after everyone else just for he can have Katarina to himself. I feel like he might be the main villain of this story, but who knows, we'll see where that goes, but that's my overall thoughts. So yeah, good episode of, Hamefuda, My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. Can't wait to see where the story's gonna go next. I've been enjoying this series quite a bit, honestly. With this and Kaguya-sama Love is War on the same day, it's a day of just happiness, laughs, and joy that leaves you in a good mood. But, yeah, you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, because for some reason, even if you click the subscribe button, you don't always get notified. So if you want to get notified, hit that bell icon. And with that, Chibi out.